Nobody expected this in court, not a single one. Was the audience leaned forward, waiting for something measured and quiet. As Keanu Reeves stepped up to the podium, what they received instead was a testimony that was among the most disturbing. In parts of the whole trial, Keanu refrained from becoming angry, sobbing or accusatory. What Sean Diddy Combs had offered him at a private dinner in 2014 was only conveyed by him in a calm and unsettling manner, an unscripted part among the strange. Ritualistic terms of the contract was the need that he take a bath in Diddy's old bathwater before he could be accepted. It sounded like a sick joke at first, but what transpired thereafter proved it wasn't the extent to which Diddy had manipulated. The proceedings became immediately apparent to the courtroom. At first, it seemed like any other dinner in Hollywood, or so Keanu Reeves believed while filming in Los Angeles. At the end of 2014, he got an invitation via a secret route Sean Diddy Combs, rather than a talent agency or record company executive, was the source private dinner that was the enigmatic and circumstantial message just creatives, no agents show up by yourself, set in the Malibu hills. This guarded estate is less famous as a hangout for A-listers and more for its relative isolation, always inquisitive but wary. Reeves consented. Everything seemed wrong when he got there. Not a single photographer or valet was there. Instead, a lone security guard examined his identification and confiscated his phone. No devices allowed, the man firmly stated on the inside. It was more of a stage than a home. There were dozens of candles scattered over the floor, and discreet speakers were playing gentle background music. Smiling Diddy stood at the head of a lengthy dinner table. Calling out to Keanu, he greeted, "Delighted you succeeded." In the stillness and darkness, there were only Diddy and Keanu at the table, with no one else there, and no one offering any kind of aid. As Keanu would later recount, the night began to feel like a slow, surreal descent. Less of a dinner and more of a recruitment ritual before Diddy handed them each a glass of wine and said, "Let's talk legacy." The two didn't discuss any particular film power secrecy, and the need to earn one's way into the upper chambers were themes that Diddy often addressed in his fables. Neither a studio nor a script were ever supplied by him. He instead implied that this project, whatever it was, didn't adhere to the typical Hollywood norms, and spoke about a part that only a select few could play. As he put it, it's an immersive experience that changes you forever. During his court evidence, Keanu expressed his growing discomfort by saying it was one of the most strange talks he had ever had. "This isn't about acting," he would say over and over again. "It's all about changing. The key is to shine while no one is looking." Keanu initially wondered if it was a new age cinematic approach that masked the difference between fact and fiction, or a psychological acting style. "To begin, you'll have to show loyalty," Diddy added, leaning forward, and Keanu froze. "No middlemen, no publicity, just surrender. It's the sole method this can be made to operate." What came next, according to Keanu, was more akin to brainwashing than a pitch upon the candlelit table. Diddy slipped a black folder. Nevertheless, upon Keanu's opening, he discovered that it lacked storyboards, script and cast list rather. The Loyalty Framework Agreement was a singular printed document consisting of 7 bullet points rather than studio logos, WGA registration numbers or legal disclaimers. There were ominous ceremonial-sounding orders. "One thing, even when you can't see, you have to trust the process." Second item, "You will not tell anyone about this project." Third point, "Just like everyone else, you will be reborn as you dip your toes into the sea." Point 4, "You are not going to inquire." Fifth item, "Your prize will be a lasting legacy if money is what you're after." Go now. The sixth item is that you must. Point number 7, "Loyalty endures forever." In his testimony, Keanu sought clarification. He asked plainly, "Is this a pitch for a movie or something else?" Diddy responded with a soft smile. "You inquire too much, Keanu," he said. "I invited you for that very reason, because you harbor any remaining doubts." Keanu explained that his gut was telling him something wasn't right, that this moment, this night, felt like the final test of his allegiance. After decades in the industry, he'd seen everything: strange pitches, intense method directors, relentless rehearsals. But this was something different. Diddy told him the project had no title, because it didn't need one. "The people who complete it," Diddy said, "they don't care about credits." He described it like going off the grid, a reawakening, a sacrificial test that must come before the reward. When Keanu resisted and pressed for more clarity, Diddy's voice dropped. "Your thoughts are too modest. You want a script? I present you with a chance for advancement." And then came the most unsettling moment in Keanu's account. He described the court going still as he recalled what happened next. Diddy placed a small black stone on the table and said, "Bring it with you when you enter the baths. You will change irrevocably the moment you step out." When Keanu asked about the meaning of bathhouse, Diddy smiled wider. He told him it was part of the second half of the loyalty clause. "After that, you start to become wet," Keanu recalled him saying, his face shifting as he relived the memory. Diddy leaned in again, speaking low and deliberate. "We're all connected through water," he allegedly said. "Water holds memory. That's why it matters who you bathe with." Keanu said Diddy spoke of a strange initiation ceremony, not symbolic, not spiritual, but something physical and repulsive, a rite that would prove absolute allegiance. "If you're serious," Diddy reportedly told him, "you'll be at the next gathering. By bringing this pebble, you will enter the same puddle from which I have escaped. I'll know you're prepared when it happens." Keanu blinked. He thought Diddy was being metaphorical, poetic even, but Diddy didn't waver. "It's not a joke," he said. "The bath will be prepared by my assistants. After I go, you'll go ahead and enter it. My residue will cleanse you." A subtle gasp echoed through the gallery. The courtroom was stunned. The promise of a fresh start, veiled in something so grotesque, left everyone trying to make sense of it. Keanu stared at Diddy for what felt like an eternity. "I assumed he was putting me through some sort of test, or maybe he was trying to embarrass me," he told the court. But he was dead serious. He maintained his serious demeanor throughout. Diddy poured him another drink. "Are you in?" he asked casually. Keanu stood, thanked him silently for the supper, and left. He didn't look back. But as he stepped away, Diddy's voice echoed through the air. "You'll come back, they always come back." Keanu said he didn't respond. He was still trying to figure out if it was a publicity stunt or some twisted performance art. But when he returned to his car, he found his phone, sealed in a black packet. Inside was a card. "Loyalty is tested in water." The sentence was embossed in gold letters. He didn't reply. He never returned, but everything changed after that night. Keanu's career, once steady and respected, began to shift. He stopped receiving roles. Collaborations ended. Several producers who had once praised his professionalism began to avoid him. "I was unsure of any connection," Keanu told the court. "But it all started after the bath. For weeks, he tried to shake it off. Just another bizarre Hollywood dinner. But the feeling wouldn't leave. Something had changed. Subtly, invisibly. It was like a shadow had moved closer. 3 days later, his home phone rang. 17 a.m. He answered. Nothing. Just static. Faceless. Empty. Then, after a long pause, there was a single breath. Deep. Slow. Intentional. And then silence again. The line went dead. He assumed it was a prank, maybe a glitch. But then it happened again and again. Over the next 2 weeks, Keanu received 5 more calls. All from blocked numbers, all at the same strange hour. Always the same. The inhale. The quiet. He started noticing unfamiliar vehicles parked near his home, staying for hours, watching, waiting. Then, one day, he found something. A sealed black packet, wedged beneath his windshield wiper. Inside was a single piece of parchment-like paper. It read, "Unfinished rituals have." The document was signed with a single letter, S, no return address, no watermark, no way to trace it. Keanu acknowledged in court that he was emotionally affected, but even then he refrained from making hasty judgments. He reached out to his longtime agent, someone he considered both a friend and confidant. The advice he received was blunt. If you didn't sign anything and you didn't speak, forget it ever happened. But then came something more unsettling. There are people out there, the agent warned, who don't like hearing no, especially when they already believe you're one of them. Trying to move on, Keanu dove into work. A new indie film, funded by a promising studio, was about to go into production. It had all the makings of a sleeper hit: modest budget, strong script, universal appeal. Investors were eager. But just days before filming began, the studio suddenly pulled out. Unexpected funding concerns. No further explanation. Another job, a cameo in a big-budget franchise sequel, quietly vanished. No recasting, no calls, just gone. At first, Keanu chalked it up to bad timing. A dry spell. Hollywood roulette. But then something happened that changed his entire perspective. A respected director he had worked with before approached him, looked him in the eye, and said, "I don't know what you walked away from, but whatever it was, it scared the right people." That was when Keanu realized there was something much bigger unfolding behind the curtain. The decline wasn't fast or dramatic. It was slow, clean, intentional. No headlines, no scandal, no rumors, just silence. Emails stopped being answered. Meetings never confirmed. Projects slipped through cracks that hadn't been there before. People he'd collaborated with, people who once called him a friend, just disappeared from his world. He described one evening at a black-tie charity event in LA. The room was full of A-list names, billionaires and media powerhouses. While standing at the bar, drink in hand, a well-known actress, someone Keanu had worked with and deeply respected, walked past him. She leaned in close. "You said no, didn't you?" She paused, waited. Then she smiled, turned and walked away. It hit him hard. That dinner, that offer, wasn't about socializing. It wasn't about networking. It was a test. And he had failed. Testimony later presented in court supported this belief. Multiple witnesses described how unknown actors and artists suddenly shot to fame after meeting with Diddy, after accepting something. The ones who resisted, quietly erased. Keanu began to notice the pattern. Musicians who exploded into superstardom overnight. Others who simply vanished from public view. Whispers about a certain early 2000s action star who reportedly clashed with Diddy's inner circle and then never worked again. He didn't play the game, someone said, and he paid for it. Keanu described Hollywood as a house of mirrors, but the real power wasn't in front of the camera. The gatekeepers were hidden, quiet, veiled behind velvet curtains. Directors and producers were just the outer shell. Then came another blow. 4 months after the dinner in Malibu, a charity campaign Keanu had helped organize, something deeply personal, dropped him. No warning, no scandal. Just a short, sterile email. The board has decided to move in a different direction. Later, he found out the campaign had received a massive anonymous donation. The new face of the campaign, an actor he recognized, someone deeply embedded in Diddy's circle. It wasn't just about professional opportunities anymore. It was rejection, systemic and deliberate. Keanu recalled one last devastating meeting. He was mid-pitch with a studio exec when the executive's phone rang. He answered, looked at Keanu and said, "You know, I'm sorry. We're going to have to reschedule." He stood up, walked out. No one called back. In court, Keanu put it plainly. It's not about being blacklisted. It's about being erased, Not loudly, not publicly, but with quiet efficiency. One of the most shocking parts of Keanu's testimony came when he recalled the dinner conversation. Diddy had mentioned names, not openly, but with coded praise. It wasn't gossip, it was a message. Keanu remembered specific phrases. You ever wonder why he blew up so fast? Staying faithful. She got the trilogy because she didn't ask questions, and then he went into the tub. At first, Keanu thought Diddy was being metaphorical, laughing, playing with words. But there was no sarcasm in his tone. He was calm, measured, serious, and that's why they get everything, Diddy had said, because they showed me their mind. Keanu refused to name names in court, but he confirmed that some of the world's biggest stars were part of that conversation. Diddy never accused anyone directly, but he didn't have to. The implications were clear. The quick risers, Keanu said, did things that most couldn't stomach. As more time passed, Keanu couldn't ignore the evidence. The same people who had sat at that table now occupied Hollywood's highest pedestals, he added. I didn't want to believe it, but it got harder and harder to ignore. Diddy even made a joke, or so it seemed, about an actor recently cast in a major superhero role. You wondering why he's wearing that suit? Diddy had said. He soaked for 2 minutes, that's why. It just took 2 minutes. The courtroom went cold. Some jurors shifted uncomfortably, realizing that what Keanu was saying had seismic, not just troubling implications. The prosecution paused, then asked, if it had just been you, would you have kept quiet? Keanu responded, if it had been me alone, maybe I could have shrugged it off. But I now know there were others who received the offer. Among those that left, I was only a lone wolf. It felt like something out of a psychological thriller. But it was real. After weeks of eerie phone calls, cancelled jobs and career sabotage, Keanu received another message. No formal dinner, no pleasantries, just a line from a mutual acquaintance. If you want to understand the system, come see the vault. At first, Keanu hesitated. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was just a twisted continuation of the game. But curiosity gnawed at him. Was it all orchestrated, or had the game already gone too far? He agreed to meet, but only under one condition. The vault. Keanu had asked for an impartial meeting spot, something neutral. Instead, he was taken, without explanation, to what appeared to be a high-rise penthouse in Beverly Hills. But this wasn't a home. It was cold, sterile, silent. The space had the aura of a surveillance bunker, not a residence. No windows, sparse furniture, a humming background noise of operating equipment pulsed constantly, like a machine that never rested. And then Diddy appeared. He didn't greet Keanu the way an old acquaintance would. Instead, he simply walked to a row of identical drawers along. One wall, sleek, metallic, and disturbingly well-maintained. This, Diddy said, is the insurance. He never opened the drawers. He didn't need to. Each one had a nameplate, a name names Keanu recognized. Everybody's got leverage, Diddy said, his voice low and measured. I just make sure mine are neat and tidy. Keanu stood motionless, barely breathing. Then Diddy turned to him. If you had gone into the bath, he said flatly, you'd have a drawer too. That was the moment Keanu said he understood, fully, viscerally, what was going on. Those drawers likely held everything, confidential contracts, NDAs, surveillance, photos, maybe even footage, all tied to the industry's most trusted names. Another offer was made to him. You don't even have to speak, Diddy told him. Simply be there. We'll make a note of the quiet. That's all it took. Silence as submission. Inaction. As compliance, Keanu declined again. Politely, firmly, Diddy only muttered one final phrase as the elevator doors slid open. Silence is loyalty. Keanu left with those words echoing in his mind. In court, Keanu's story broke through the glossy shell of Hollywood like a blade through thin paper. He wasn't just accusing a man. He was exposing a machine, a method, fear, silence, leverage. That was the real currency. He admitted that he could have spoken years ago. The opportunities were there, but every time he thought about it, when he heard whispers of victims, when he watched once vibrant artists vanish, he stopped. Someone always warned him, a friend, a whisper, don't be the guy who takes the fall for exposing the club. That fear was real. He remembered one moment especially, Cassie Ventura crying on the stand, breaking under the weight of her story. The recordings, the dates, the descriptions of ritualistic, calculated manipulation, they matched things Keanu had seen in quiet corners. No longer just anecdotes but puzzle pieces. The web was bigger than him. It wasn't just about me, he said, looking toward the jury. There was no such thing. Then he described a moment in 2020, right after Diddy's first legal issues emerged. An actor, someone Keanu had once worked with, reached out privately. He said he'd seen too much to stay quiet. This is your opportunity, the message read. If you speak, I'll back you up. Keanu promised he would, but he deleted the message soon after, not out of disbelief, but out of fear. He finally changed his mind when the subpoena arrived. He wasn't being punished. He was being given a final chance to do the right thing. This isn't revenge, Keanu told the judge. It's about being clear, about making a statement before I walk away from this industry. Forever. By the end of his testimony, the courtroom had transformed. Gone were the smug supporters, the calm composure of Diddy's defense team. In their place, silence. Heavy. Dense. A tension you could feel in your bones. Keanu had flipped every one of Diddy's lawyers' objections with quiet confidence. He told his story not with anger, but conviction. The jury watched him with unblinking focus. One juror wiped away a tear, another scribbled frantically into a notepad, as if trying to record every word. Keanu wasn't just accusing a man of manipulation, he was condemning a system, a secretive society of traded silence and untraceable consequences, and he did it without flinching. The only reason I'm still here, Keanu said, is because I said no. And the only reason I said no is because I still believed there was a cue. He stepped down from the stand. Then he turned, faced Diddy, who sat motionless, jaw tight, lips pressed to a hard line. Keanu's voice didn't rise, but it pierced. Like glass, I'd rather fade into oblivion than be remembered for dipping my feet in your water. Despite what you said about legacy, some stains don't wash off. A silence cracked across the courtroom like thunder. Then the judge called for a break. The hallway exploded with the sound of reporters, sketch artists, and the frenzied tapping of keyboards. But inside the courtroom, there was only one mood: terror. Keanu hadn't just testified, he had confirmed every rumor. He had named the system without naming names, and he had done so with terrifying precision.